Before we get into the show and introduce today's guest, I would just like to thank United Medical Credit for being sponsors of this podcast and of the business of dentistry. As a matter of fact, they have a special offer for business of dentistry members, 0% merchant fees for the rest of the year, and 30% discount for life after that. You can get that special deal by either going to docoffinvestments.com and clicking on the deals section, or by going directly to www.unitedmedicalcredit.com/TBOD. Thanks again, UMC.
Welcome to the Dear Doc Podcast, where we will discuss the business of running a dental practice with a panel of experts. Now, your host, Dr. Christopher Hoffpower.
Hey guys, this is Doc Hoffpower coming to you from my home studio here in Alvin, Texas. Thank you so much for joining us for the Dear Doc Podcast. Now, for those of you who are longtime listeners, there's a face to my left that you probably recognize, Thanasi. How's it going, man?
Doing well, Doc. How are you? Nice to see you, and thanks again for having us on.
Oh man, always. It's always a pleasure to talk with you guys. We were chatting actually just before this, and I said, man, I need to hurry up and get this recording because we don't want to run out of time. So if you don't remember him, I'm going to let him introduce you to his company. But suffice it to say that Thanasi is actually one of my friend's sons. He started a company, and he did it because he was tired of his mom getting screwed over by credit card companies. So he created a company that would help dentists to adjust those rates on their merchant services and save a bunch of dough. So Thanasi, talk to me a little bit about how all this started and you know, the whole thing with your mom and her bill, and she was frustrated. For those of you who don't know Terry Alani, she's got a temper about that big. So she was ticked. So she came to you with this bill. Tell us about it.
Yeah, no, of course. And yeah, you know, as you mentioned, we started Zilment, which I mean, think of Zilment as one of the easiest ways I think a doctor and a dentist specifically can save money and add to their bottom line in a matter of minutes, but by lowering their credit card processing fees. And to your point, how we started Zilment was actually by chance. You know, we don't come from, and we actually take pride in this. We don't come from, you know, a 10-year history of being in credit card processing. We're very much 1 year old, new to the industry. And I think we brought a lot of different perspective because we've always been, you know, looking at it from the merchant or dentist perspective. And so, yeah, my mom, a dentist, was very, very frustrated with their credit card processing fees. They always seemed to be going up. The statements that she would give us or give me, always had really strange, arcane words that nobody understood, and they'd add up to thousands of dollars of fees per month, per year, et cetera, right? And so she gave us a statement. I didn't understand what I was looking at first, but spent a lot of time talking to people, talking to sales reps at credit card processors, doing a lot of online research, and basically at the end of it, was able to get her on a plan that saved her, you know, thousands of dollars a year. In the switching process was actually a lot more easy and less difficult than I had originally anticipated, right? And so we did that. My mom was super happy, obviously, because we were able to get her a great rate after, again, many sales calls and talking to a lot of people. It took up way too much time. But after that, she was like, well, why don't you check out some of my friends to see if they're overpaying? So we contacted about 5 of their dentists in Houston area. And lo and behold, all of them were overpaying. Some by, you know, not as significant amounts, you know, maybe a couple thousand per year. We came across a couple dentists, you know, one was $25,000 a year. And then still our record to date, one doctor was about $150,000 a year. And we said, wait a minute, you know, my mom's not the only one here. We may have something where, you know, there's obviously this issue going on in the medical space, particularly with dentists and doctors, I imagine. And, you know, obviously most dentist doctors are extremely busy managing their practice, managing their staff. Frankly, a lot of them, you know, probably typically rely on, you know, people doing business the right way. And unfortunately, in the merchant services space, a lot of people take advantage of this fact, right? And so a lot of these dentists, you know, they were signing up to plans when they first opened their practice, and now they've grown their business. It's a lot more successful. And so they're overpaying by significant amounts. And so what we did is on the back of that, we actually created a company called Zilment that basically takes the tedious, really difficult process of negotiating with your processing companies and boils it down to, 3 steps, right? And so what we do is we take your statement, or if you don't process credit cards already, we'll set you up with one of our vetted partners. We work with 4 of the largest processors in the country. We've negotiated and having contract pre-agreed terms that we're able to pass on to any merchants that we work with. And then we sign you up and we get you a terminal. Typically, we can get them free of charge, at your door within 2 to 3 days. And the whole process from start to finish typically only takes, 10 minutes. So it's a great, I think, great savings. And last thing, we've worked with over 100 dentists since we started about a year ago. And I think combined savings are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's been really great.
That's amazing. So real quick, I'm going to jump back to your origin story here, if we can channel Marvel.
Sure.
So when you said, so my mom asked me, I did some internet research. You're one of the most humble guys I know. And it makes me laugh every time you tell this story that you leave all this out. Talk to my listeners about what you did before your mom asked you to look at her credit card fees.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I mean, my background is in finance and financial services. I worked and went to school, I guess, about 10 years of work, 4 years of school, obviously, in financial services, working at various investment banks, hedge funds, et cetera. I think very familiar with financial concepts and very familiar with what I would call kind of negotiations and business practices, right? And so, obviously had never really had direct contact with credit card processing companies before, but, using a lot of those skills, having worked in banking, working in investment banking and the investing side, was able to kind of really understand what exactly was going on, right? So, for example, the first thing we did is I took her statement and I submitted it. Most people, what they're going to do is they're going to want to find better processing. They're going to go on Google and type in, how to get the lowest credit card processing, et cetera, right? They're going to reach out to the top 5 picks. They're going to give them all a call. Every one of those picks is going to ask you to do the same song and dance. You're going to talk to them on the phone. They're going to ask what you do, how your day's going, blah, blah, blah. These are sales reps, right? And then they're going to ask you to send over a statement. When they get the statement, basically the game they play is give you enough savings that you switch, but leave enough on the table so that they can make some more money, right?
And it's even worse than that, because you and I, unbeknownst to our listeners until this point, we've recorded this podcast once before. My new Mac Mini did not like that and ate it. So I actually have a little bit more background than the first time to ask some of these questions. So it's not just that they tell you, oh yeah, I can save you X percent. The big lie there is that it's the hidden fees that are tacked onto these accounts. They're going to talk to you about the merchant services percentage, but they're not going to talk to you about all the hidden fees. You may actually have a lower percentage with a company and it looks really good, but some of these unnecessary and frankly scammy charges, like fee for being cool, or I don't know, what's the craziest one you've heard of?
I mean, we've seen some pretty aggressive fees, right? I think, and again, it just comes down to, how sneaky these processors want to be, right? And so, in the credit card processing world, there's really 2 types of transactions that most dentists participate in, right? One is card present. So think of that as the patient paying at your checkout desk or at the office. The other is what's called card not present. And so think of that as, hey, you have a balance outstanding, you call them on the phone, or you have them go to your website and pay online, or however you may be, but ultimately they're not at your office. And so what we've seen pretty frequently is that they might have a pretty decent card present rate, but what's going on is these processors are adding a really egregious card not present rate. So, we had one dentist that probably did, let's say 50,000 a month in volume. Let's say 20,000 of that was in card not present. Their card not present fee could be like 3.5%, right? Which, that's ridiculous. And so, for example, the way we work is we don't differentiate between card not present and card present in terms of the fees we charge. But a lot of people, they'll hide things in kind of the footnotes, right, of the contracts and say, oh, your rate is really 0.2%, but hey, For card not present, it's 1.5%, something along those lines.
All right. So to give you guys an idea, I was recently interviewing somebody who he worked for, let's say, one of the big lenders.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he was talking about his contract, they offered him, I think, $300,000 or $400,000 a year salary. And he said, no, I don't want any of that. I just want 10 basis points off of every loan I close for history of that merchant. And so I see you understand that, but our listeners aren't going to understand that. So 10 basis points is basically 0.1%. So at 10 basis points, this guy lives on a yacht. He has his own private island. The guy's stinking rich. Now, I can't say who he worked for, but you'd recognize the name. We'll put it that way. So these companies are charging you 150 basis points for a card that's not present over one that is. That blows my mind. I mean, whenever you start to understand, it reminds me, what was it, Superman 3? I'm probably dating myself here, where Richard Pryor had hacked the 1/10 of 1% off of everybody's paycheck.
Yep.
Remember that? And so he got a check for $2 million or something like that. So I think people don't understand the importance of those tiny little fractions. And so it doesn't seem as important to us as a dentist. Oh yeah, it's just 1.5% of my $1,000 charge. But over time, that can add up to serious money. I mean, like you said, basically the price of an associate in that one guy's case, $100 and something thousand.
I mean, that's right. And I mean, it's also, think of it as a royalty, right? I mean, it's also pre your expenses. So, I mean, if you're able to lower it and, it goes straight to your bottom line without having to do any work on the expense side, and it dramatically can increase your margin. I think another thing, it's really important that, doctors and dentists, they understand, to your point, that these basis points can add up to a significant amount of dollars, right? And so, if someone's like, well, my rate currently is 2.5%, but it could be 2%, that 50 basis points or 0.5%, can easily be $20,000, $30,000 a year. And so it's really important that, doctors and dentists pay attention to that. I think specifically, we've come across cases where, we've been obviously a lot of dentists are probably have contemplated going into a DSO or selling their practice, right? And something else we've come across is a lot of these dentists that are potentially going to sell their practice, they typically don't have the best credit card processing on their business, right? And so, let's just give you an example. That one dentist that was overpaying by $250,000 a year on credit card processing.
Oh my God!
When you have a
that's $1 million. That's $1 million right there to 4x multiple.
Exactly, right. And so, in the first thing the buyer is going to do is they're going to renegotiate that rate that you should have renegotiated before selling, right? And so it's really important.
And that goes straight to EBITDA too. I mean, that doesn't even. Wow, I hadn't even thought about that. That's amazing. That's brilliant. So, guys, if you're out there wanting to sell, call Thanasi. Like today.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a significant amount of savings, and then again multiply that annual savings of, let's say it's $10,000 or $5,000, multiply that by 4. And again, I think a lot of people think that this process is super invasive and is going to result in downtime in the office and take up a lot of time. It's really a simple and straightforward process. These terminals are really easily switched out. Probably, if you haven't updated your terminal in a while, you're probably missing out on some great technology and some great features that can actually result in you getting paid faster, reducing collections, and having to use, third-party agencies like collection agencies by automating a lot of your receivables, particularly for dentists that are doing, in-house patient financing or the things like that. A lot of everything we offer comes with, ability to send text, email payment requests, payment plans. And so you'll not only be able to, increase collections times, but also reduce the amount of time your front office is kind of chasing customers and, having to call them on the phone, which, as I'm sure you can understand, is a pain that nobody likes to deal with. And so
to your point here, this is interesting. Okay, so when you're looking at these card not present monthly charges, so a payment plan, which is something that you guys can help dentists to create in their practice.
Sure.
the first thing, I have a couple of preconceptions I want to ask questions about to see if I'm correct. When you create a payment plan, let's say the customer cancels that card and then they get another card. That payment plan is a contractual obligation, so it floats to the next card. Is that correct?
If they got a completely other card, it's not. So the way the technology works today is if they got an updated card, so let's say it expired, but then they got an updated card, it would automatically update. So let's say it expired, October 2021, your system would automatically
or if they
get
said
the latest version of that card.
Or whatever. Because it used to be that whenever someone lost their card, they cut it up, they called the insurance, the credit card company, they canceled it. It stopped all of those contracts, but it doesn't anymore. And so that's the point I was trying to bring out. There's a lot of dentists who are going to be afraid because they know how it used to work, but they don't know how it works now. So that first of all. Second of all, I was asking you about it, and you told me that even though orthodontists take you guys up on that general dentists don't seem to want to do that. And that's kind of crazy to me because that allows you to close more cases.
I think that's right. I think, obviously the big most dentists, they have to decide between if they're going to take in-house patient financing or, out-of-house patient financing. Obviously everyone's familiar with the out-of-house financing options like Care Credit, et cetera, right? Which, they're charging 5% fee, but they're taking over the collections and all the repayment risk, if you will. Obviously the one caveat with the in-house patient financing is, yes, the fees are going to be significantly lower, but ultimately, and again, you are able to reduce the collections risk because, you do have those auto update features, but it's also important that you don't just apply this blanket across all customers. You should know patients. You should know your patients before putting them on a payment plan, because you still have that collections risk. Because ultimately, if a patient wanted to disappear, even though you have a payment plan, it might not work, right? They could cancel the card, if you will. But it is a great, particularly for dentists doing larger cases, it is a great option to do these in-house patient financing plans, particularly if you're working with patients that are, of a good credit quality, you trust, them, they've, been in your practice for a number of years, et cetera. A great option to kind of close more cases and say, hey, this is a $10,000 case. We can do, one payment now and, a payment next time you come in, et cetera. Right. And it's just a little bit easier in terms of being able to close cases when you offer a little bit more flexible financing options.
Hey guys, now a quick word about our sponsor. I'm really excited to announce that we've partnered with United Medical Credit to offer an exclusive deal just to TBOD members. Now, United Medical Credit is a patient financing provider with a unique waterfall lending process. It allows them to approve a much wider range of applicants. In fact, the widest range of applicants in the entire field. I've been using United Medical Credit in my practice for a couple of years now, and I'm seeing great results. They really speak for themselves. I see at least 30% increase in the number of patients who are actually approved whenever going through UMC. And the best part is, patients are accepting treatment. More acceptance, more patients means more revenue. Right now, they're offering TVOD members a special discount of 0% merchant fees until the end of the year. That's right, until the end of 2021, you get 0% merchant fees charged. And they're going to give you a 30% discount for life after that. Now, if you want to claim this offer for your practice, go to www.unitedmedicalcredit.com/TBOD, or as always, you can go to Dockoff Investments, click on the deal section, look up UMC, and register. Thanks a lot, guys, and UMC, thanks for sponsoring. So I have a question for you. How hard would it be, because you guys are you're still a relatively new company. I mean, you guys are a year old, and you're not backed by the kind of money that some of these people are. How hard would it be for you to create an app that would allow, or even a website even that would allow dentists to check credit ratings of their patients easily? Because I imagine if you're going to be financing someone on Care Credit, right? Care Credit doesn't finance under a 680. So if they have a 680, they're a pretty darn good risk. I mean, they're near prime. So depending upon how you specifically define prime, which was eye-opening to me. Evidently, every single lender defines it differently. So if they're near prime, it would save you the, 11, 12% fee from Care Credit if you were to do a payment plan through your credit card, and the risk would be the same. I mean, you don't get your money the same day, but you could actually save yourself a good bit of money. And guys, 12% is even better than 10 basis points. That's 1,200 basis points.
Yep, no, exactly. I mean, in terms of the credit reports, I mean, there are websites out there where you can download a credit report off the internet. Again, because credit report is dealing with sensitive information, particularly with consumers, there is a sign up process. They want to make sure that, you're storing the information in a secure place, you're following correct procedures, because we've also looked into this. But there definitely are ways out there where you can sign up to get, access to credit reports on some of your patients to allow you to do more in-house patient financing. And to your point, it's definitely significantly cheaper
for you guys to add.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely look into it in terms of packaging it a little bit easier for dentists. So it's, kind of a one-click sort of feature versus having to go sign up online. Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if you knew somebody who did automation.
Yeah.
But moving on, we've talked about the fact that these guys have these really sketchy clauses and these hidden fees. The last time that we did this interview, before my computer ate it, I asked you to give us just some of the things that even if someone doesn't use you, just looking at their bill, what things should pop out at them? What things are totally made up charges that look legit? Because I know you were telling me about a couple of them that really look legit, but they're not.
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, the industry is not regulated. And so there are 1,000 different ways to call a fee. There's 1,000 different names for each fee. And so, unless you know what processes are saying, it's almost impossible to look at a statement and know what you're looking at. And so for us, for example, we only charge 3 fees. We charge a transaction fee. So we do that in both a penny amount. So for us, it's typically 5 cents per transaction, and then 15 basis points or 0.15%. And then we charge a monthly fee. Our monthly fee that includes every single, technology out there today is $20. So those are the only 3 fees. Now, other processors, they add a ton of other fees on top of that. So those other fees are things like batch fees, right? So a batch fee is basically, it's like every time you want to get paid, you got to pay more fees. I've seen next day settlement fees. With all our payments, you're able to batch out until midnight Eastern and get paid the next morning by 6 a.m. A lot of other companies, they'll charge you more basis points if you want to get paid the next day, right? We've seen things like, regulatory product fees or, PCI compliant. Even though you're PCI compliant, they'll still charge a PCI compliant fee. Another fee we've seen, which is ridiculous, is called this rate lock fee. All our rates are locked de facto, right? Because in our industry, we're able to contractually control the rates, right? And so when you charge someone a rate lock fee, one of the competitors to deal with, they charge a rate lock fee, for example. And that rate lock fee is basically you're asking the merchant to pay you for something you already do. And so, all those other fees, they start to add up, right? And so, for us, again, 3 fees, penny, 5 cents, 15 basis points, $20 a month. But a lot of these other guys, what they'll do is they'll charge a certain card not present fee. They'll charge you an extra fee if you want to take American Express. We don't charge extra for American Express. Batch fees, settlement fees, et cetera. And in the list, honestly, there's probably over 100 different fees that we pay.
That's one I've always wondered about. Okay, so Amex. I love my Amex. I don't leave home without it.
Yep.
Maybe I'll get some money for that. So
yeah.
The thing is I've noticed a lot of places, and this is perhaps less prevalent now than it was in years past, but a lot of places won't take Amex, and they say, well, it's because of the processing fees. That's not actually Amex, right? That's actually the merchant services people?
So Amex is a little bit complicated, but it's been made a lot easier for about 5 years now. So almost every almost every dentist out there is going to qualify for. So historically, for some of the dentists that have been around longer, in order to accept Amex, you typically had to call Amex and set up and negotiate what we call like a bilateral rate. So basically, it's a rate between you and Amex, and every merchant would have a different rate. What Amex did about over 5 years ago was they created this new program where every merchant that accepts less than $1 million per year in Amex, which is almost every single dentist out there, they qualify for these pre-negotiated rates, which are actually pretty competitive with Visa and MasterCard. There's not a big difference between Visa, MasterCard, and Amex under these pre-negotiated rates. Now, on top of that, historically, processors typically charge, so a lot of one of the processors we've looked at, they'll charge automatically 35 basis points or 0.35% on top of the Amex rate for Amex, whereas we only charge, again, 0.15 for all card types. And so historically, they would charge more for Amex for whatever reason. I don't know why, but in this day and age, there's really no reason you shouldn't take Amex. Because again, you're able to get rates that are equivalent to Visa, MasterCard. And with us, there's no difference in kind of the processing markup between Visa and Amex.
Okay. So with all that being said, guys, sometimes when you listen to this podcast, we just hand you money, and I'm about to do that. Thanasi, how many people have you looked at their practices? I know I'm one, and I know why. But how many people have you looked at their practices and you simply couldn't save the money? And guys, I'm going to tell you why I had him look at mine after I went to MB2, and I wish I had him look at it before, because I'd have made more money whenever I partnered. So how many people have you not been able to save money?
So we've looked at about 150 practices, and I want to say less than 5 have we not been able to save what I call a significant amount of money. And for me, that's kind of our threshold is around $1,000 a year. If we're saving you $100 a year, $200 a year, it's probably not worth the hassle.
So 2.5% of practices will not save over $100 a year if they switch to you.
1,000. So our threshold is 1,000. 1,000, yeah. So if you only want, again, out of 155, so let's call it 3-4%, we haven't been able to save over $1,000. And so typically in that scenario, again, we're very transparent. I think one of our guiding principles is not overselling and forcing someone or trying to force something on someone that they don't want, right? And so if we're only saving you $300, we'll be very transparent about it and say, you already have a great rate. There's no harm in sticking with what you're doing, and we're very happy to see that, right?
And I can vouch for that, guys, because they looked at my practice, and that's exactly what he told me. He's like, man, you've got an amazing rate. I can't beat this. And, to be honest with you, I wish you'd talk to me before you partner with MB2. But that is one of the reasons why we have him on the podcast multiple times, and why I always talk about him when you guys are asking, hey, who do you use for your merchant services? That's why. So here is what I'm going to ask people to do. I want you to go and get your statement. I want you to just look at what you charged last month. Okay? Then I want you to put in 5 cents for each transaction. Then 0.015 times the total of transactions. And then what is your monthly fee, Thanasis?
The monthly fee is 20, and it's 0.0015.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. 0.0015. Okay, 0.0015 times your total, 5 cents per transaction, plus $20. And if the number you come out with looks like a chunk of change you'd like to have in your pocket, I want you to call this man. How do they do that?
Important to note, because I'm sure a lot of dentists, they're going to look at that. We're charging that 0.0015 on top of interchange. And so, again, kind of a complicated topic, but really simple. The way we describe it to dentists, and we have all this on our website as well, is at the end of the day, most dentists, all they care about is like, hey, what's my rate? What's my monthly fee going to be per month, right? Let's keep it real simple. with our pricing, because we've worked with so many dentists, we have a pretty good distribution or data set of what that rate should look like. If you're paying more than 2% a month in credit card fees, so let's say you're doing 20,000, if you're paying over $400 a month, so that's 2% of 20,000, you're probably overpaying, right? And so what we do is, again, we charge what's known as interchange plus. The reason we kind of guide towards that pricing model is because it's by far and away the cheapest way to process payments for a dentist. A lot of other competitors out there, they try to keep it simple with flat rate pricing, but the way flat rate, and we also offer flat rate pricing if a dentist really wants it, but we typically advise against it because it's a lot more expensive. And so, you're typically seeing flat rate pricing closer to 2.7, 2.9%, right? And the reason they charge such a high rate is because they're embedding a big markup of close to 1%. And so when we say 0.15 or 15 basis points, most dentists have an interchange rate of 1.85%. So that's the rate that goes to Visa, MasterCard, Chase, the major card issuing banks. The processor is charging 15 basis points or 0.15% on top of that to get you closer to that 2% rate. So again, if you're paying more than 2% a month in credit card processing fees, you're probably overpaying.
Fantastic. Okay, for ancillary fees, what should jump out at them so far as a dollar amount?
If you look on your statement and you see more than $20 a month in monthly fees, you're probably overpaying for something. That's another hidden way for people to say, hey, we're only going to charge you, 15 basis points or 0.15%, but we're going to tack on $75 in monthly fees, right? And so it's really, you shouldn't be paying a big amount of monthly fees unless, of course, where we typically see the highest monthly fees is dentists that are working with certain software providers, where those software providers are adding, a certain monthly fee in order to access that service.
Sorry,
exactly. Yeah.
Hold there. I hate that company with a passion.
In the way all these practice management softwares work is they basically partnered with payment processors, and it's really important to know that, obviously they have the integration, which is a great feature, undisputable great feature to have, right? But one of the hidden tricks is that we'll just say PMS providers out there, what they're doing is they're actually getting a pretty big revenue share with the payment processors out there, right? And so because they're doing the integration, they're taking a bigger revenue share, and so they're incentivized to get you on a higher rate because they're getting a percentage of that rate. So it's really important that, a lot of dentists out there that have that integration, just, again, we actually have the ability to offer integration as well. I'll be honest, it's through a third party that makes us charge a much higher rate. So we have to charge at least 50 basis points for that third party integration. We're able to offer it, but that's where we often see a lot of those extra fees, is with that integrated solution.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. Gosh. Oh, you said you had some updates since the first time we talked.
Yeah, no, again, many of the updates where, we've been super excited to have worked with, 150 dentists to date. We've worked with dentists actually all over the country from, I think Washington State is probably as far away as we've gone, all the way to New Hampshire. So from coast to coast, and, all the major cities. We work in some smaller communities, but, we have a website, Zilment.com, that's Zilment. Again, worked with over 150 dentists, average savings of $5,000 per dentist. And it's as simple as, a 10-minute process, right? Go on the website, fill out a quick form. We'll get you something over, probably the same day, right? And everything's online, or we can talk on the phone if you like as well. But yeah, it's been a great, we're very happy with the progress. And I think a lot of the success we've had in terms of helping dentists save and add to their bottom line over the past year.
So is your new title over there CMSO, Chief Money Saving Officer?
That's right. Chief Money Savings Officer. Right. That's right.
Fantastic, guys. So go to Zilment.com, check them out. Remember, take a look at your bill. Listen to what he said earlier. If you're getting charged, over $20 a month for anything, be aware you're probably getting scammed. If you're paying over 2% of your transactions, you're probably getting scammed. It's as simple as that, guys. There's money sitting on the table for you. So Thanasi,
and one last thing.
Yeah,
we also work with new dentists. So if you're a new dentist just looking to get started, we can also work with you as well, and get you signed up in a really simple and transparent way.
So you don't just unscrew the old dentist. You help the new dentist never to get screwed to begin with.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, guys, you heard it here. Dental students, if you're thinking about getting out and starting a practice, dentists who are thinking about starting a practice, or anybody who takes credit cards at all, check out Zilment. They can save you money. Thanasi, thank you so much for coming on the show again today. You guys have been great sponsors of the Dear Doc podcast and also the business of dentistry. And, I mean, your mom's kind of awesome too, so.
Awesome. Well, no, thanks again for having me and having us. Again, we're very happy to be, obviously part of the podcast and involved in the dental community. And so, yeah, thanks again.
Awesome. Hey, next time you're in Houston, say hi to your mom for me.
Will do. All right.
Hey, brother. It's good to talk to you and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Dear Doc podcast, your source for the business and legal questions associated with your dental practice. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dear Doc podcast on all major platforms.
Hey folks, before I let you go, I just wanted to make sure I thank United Medical Credit for sponsoring this podcast and also the business of dentistry. Go check out their website at www.unitedmedicalcredit.com/TBOD to get a special deal.